Okay, we're live and in person today. Hey, and for those of you who want to bust my chops, I know I'm 1 minute late, and that doesn't work with my time management philosophy. So it's okay if you bust my chops today. I'm pumped up, ready to go. It's been a busy morning. It's been going to be a busy day. It's just that kind of stuff. So excuse me 1 second. You know how I hate to leave the broadcast, but I want to make sure my throat stays good and I can talk to you because we got a lot of stuff to cover today. And today we're going to talk about 67% of qualified prospects that most salespeople leave on the table. Now, not salespeople who watch Coach Manny's stuff, because we know you all are fired up and pumped up, and we know that you know what's going on. But there's so many people out there that leave so much on the table, and what we want to do for you today is try to look at some of those prospects and how you're going to get them. What do they look like? Where are they? And what happens with them? So let me just do a couple of housekeepings, and then we'll get ready to rock and roll, right? Let's see, what do we got? We're here every week, right? Every week at noon. We are here to broadcast, give you a straightforward session with some tip. And I hope you all enjoyed Orlando on our last visit with LinkedIn. And we are going to bring Orlando back again. For those who don't know, his wife just had a baby, I think, 2 days ago. So it was great that he was here that day with us online. And we'll get him back soon. Got a lot of positive feedback. I hope you all enjoyed that session. If you didn't and you're into LinkedIn, please go out on my YouTube channel, Manny Nowak, and you can pick all that stuff up. Again, we're here every week. We're looking for some, what is it? You know, I'm always asking that question. What is it as far as sales that you're not getting that you may need that may pump you up and make you even more effective? And, you know, I'm looking at a lot of stuff today where everybody's blowing off the old stuff and looking at all this great new technology. I'm going to bring you some stuff that's been around for 100 years or more over the next 6 months as part of our process that's working. And remember, as a salesperson, what am I concerned with? I want to make sure I close the deal, right? Because if I can't close the deal, then what have I accomplished? So let me, I'm going to use my little index cards today because I want to do a little bit of emphasis. You know, I don't use these that much, but once in a while I do. I want you to make sure we get this number right. 67% qualified leads left on the table. 67, that's a big number, isn't it? So let's just look 1 minute. And, you know, I'm going to tell you, I got to give credit to Callan Rush in her book, in a great book, and we'll pump it up here for you in a minute, Wealth Through Workshops. If any of you are doing workshops out there as a part of your lead generation, get this book, Wealth Through Workshops, Callan Rush. Great job. She does a tremendous job. I mean, they do seminars all over the place on how to bring people into seminars. But that's where a lot of what you're going to hear today comes out of her book. But I want to just look at, you know, we have 100%. And remember, what I'm going to talk about today is qualified leads. And what do we mean by qualified leads? We mean people who can use what you have, could buy what you have, could need what you have, use what you have. They're a buyer. They are not somebody who you're trying to talk into for the first. These are people who could buy. Like, let's say you're in the print business. It's any qualified company is a person that uses outside print services, right? If you're in the technology field, any company that has over an X number of computers, they could be a potential for you. If you sell a certain type of software, anybody that uses that type of software. So these are qualified. When we say the 100%, it's 100% of qualified prospects that we're going to talk about. Now, first of all, I'm going to take 30% are definitely not in there. Okay, so 30%, they're the 30% on the bottom. So we only have 70% left. 30%, they're never going to buy. They're going to let their old stuff die. They're just going to continue to do stuff some other way. But 30% of the 100 are never going to buy. So we just throw them out. Everybody throws them out. Now, the 70% that you have left, now, there are 3% that everybody sells to, all right? The 3%, and let's use that, let's put that up there as the 3% everybody buys. These are the people who are actively looking. Everybody sells to these 3%. They're the people that are actively looking. These are the people that you can get through your marketing. These are the people that marketing goes after. Marketing goes after that 3%. You know, if you get a 3% return on your market, these are the people that the marketing campaign goes after. They're in the market. They're active. They're looking. Everybody and their brother's knocking on their porch. We know them. They got an RFP out, whatever. They're the people that everybody sells. They're 3%. Now, you're going to take their business. Don't get me wrong. But the 67% that's left, because if you take 33% from 100, there's 67%. And who are those 67% that are still left out there? And tell me, why is nobody doing anything with it? Why are they not being chased? Why are they not being used? And I'm just looking for a number here in my notes. I hope I have it. Which breaks that 67 down a little bit finer. Let me just look here. I don't have it. But I wanted to share with you what makes up the 65%, because 7% are active in the market, and then we have two groups of 30. Point is, the 67% are people that have to be sold. They're not just going to sign with you. They're not going to welcome you in. They're not going to, a lot of times, be attracted by the marketing material. These are 67% of people who have to be sold. And guess who's going to sell them? You are. Exactly. You are the one who is going to sell them, and they're the ones that we're going after. And just hold on with me. I'm trying to get something through my notes here. Oh, yeah. Okay, here it is. It's right there in front of me. Isn't that the way it is sometimes? So, 7% of that 67%, they're open. They're gonna look at you. They're gonna talk to you. They may be thinking about buying in the future. So 7% are the gravy at the top, okay, or the cream at the top, right? 30% are aware. And again, remember, all this comes from Callan Rush's book, Wealth Through Workshops. And remember, what's Coach Manny tell you? If you're not reading 30 minutes a day, how can you call yourself a salesperson, right? If you're not listening to another 30 minutes of video or audio every day, so that's 1 hour for yourself in self-development, you can't crush the market. You can't dominate the market. And isn't that what you want to do? Don't you want to be the player out there who is crushing the market? Well, get the 30 minutes in on reading, 30 minutes on listening. And listen, the listening's easy. If you're in the car at all, that's a piece of cake. And even, get some books on tape. I don't care. Whatever. I just want you to be pounding yourself with ideas, information, stuff that's going to make you shine when you get out there. All right. So let's talk. So 7% are open, 30% are aware, and 30% are just unconscious. But if you raise their consciousness and show them, they will be buyers. Now, everybody's going after the 3%, a lot of people are working the 7, but there's another 60% that most people just give them a call. Okay, goodbye. And what's the rule we always say about calling? 7 calls before you have anything really that people are interested in listening to you. Most people go out of business. I will be honest with you. I do a lot of work with businesses. And I've helped a lot of businesses who are near that end, who are near there. I'm just about to fall over the cliff. I can count back to you some great stories of when they finally, the light went on and they realized I got to sell. And not just do I got to sell, I can't keep working this 3%. I got to work this big percent. And when they turned that around and they really started to sell to the big percent, they started making real money. And you can too. That's the success of your company. Let's see. So what do you got to do? Now, most of you out there who listen to me probably read my newsletter or have read it somewhere in the past. And it's very simple. What is that newsletter's purpose? And it's an article. It's usually somewhere around 500 words. I try to make it between 400 and 600. It's an educational piece. What am I doing? Am I trying to get to the 3%? Now, the 3% probably read it, but the 67%, what I'm trying to do with them is I'm trying to create awareness. Are you with me? I'm trying to create awareness. I'm trying to tell them a story about something. Every week, I'm telling them, here is something you need to know. Here's something you need to know. Now, I can apply that to any industry, not just coaching. If I'm in the, again, and I use the print industries because I've worked with a lot of printing companies. I use the print industry because I'm trying to educate you on a specific type of print, a specific type of graphics, a specific type of turnaround, whatever. You guys have 100. If you're in a technology industry, come on. You guys have, if I was in the technology industry, which is where I came from, I could tell 10 stories a day. I could almost put out a newsletter a day. There's so much stuff going on and so many questions people have. And yes, you can go out and Google it, but sometimes the answer isn't as clear. So if you're in a technology company or you're a lawyer or you're an accountant, you know, look at your field. Look at all the things you could educate people in and educate them. Start sending out a piece. If you don't want to do it weekly, I mean, it's a lot of work doing it weekly, but I'll share with you that over 50% of my business today comes from my newsletter and people who read it and call me about doing some business. 50%. Now that's, so is it worth it? If you could get 50% business increase through a communication piece, I think it is. Now, and I don't even have that. I mean, I have a lot of subjects, but if if I'm not in technology or some of these other things with so much new stuff, you could get the people interested. And even once a month, it's fine. It's not necessarily to do it every week, but I like to over deliver. And you know how I feel about over deliver, right? I think you all ought to do it. So, they tell a great story in the book, and I'm going to share that story with you in a minute. But the second thing you need to do, and this is, you know, people do the education, and I've taught a lot of people that, and a lot of people out there are teaching it. And so people do some kind of education. They do newsletters. A lot of people get somebody else to create it for them, which is okay, as long as it looks like you, feels like you, and you believe it. Now, the second thing is you've got to position the purchase of your product. Now, this is the piece that we see in the book that Ms. Rush tells us people aren't doing. You know, how do I logically get you from where you're at, which is, how do I get you from, wow, this is some interesting stuff, to, I gotta have a meeting? How do I get you from, this is cool, we probably need this, to, I need to call this person? I mean, that's the transition that I have to make. And as a salesperson, that's a transition that you have to take your customer into. And remember, we're not marketing people. And if you remember the difference between sales and marketing, marketing is getting someone to pick up the phone and call you. Sales is after they call you, convincing them they need to buy. Okay, we can get people to call. We could put something ridiculous out there and get people to call. Which, excuse me, by the way, I have seen people put out some crazy stuff just to get somebody on the phone. But so we've got to get them to come to the logical conclusion that what they're seeing is something that they should buy, and they need to connect with you. Now, I do a lot of education, right? But how do I move people through there? If you look at most of your education, it's not a hard sell, it's a soft sell. This is what we did for a company in this industry. If you're in that industry, that may move you towards purchasing it because you see, oh, I know those guys, they do something similar to me. Maybe I should buy this because it's successful for them. I talk about where we've used it, who we've used it, how we've helped people, how the product moves you from A to B. All those things are positioning the person out there to think about, wow, maybe I should buy this as well, which is really where we want to go. But that's not all today. I wanted to run you through 3 more points, and we always have only so much time. But let's go back to the product. That's 67%. You got to sell them, right? Now, what's in that group of people are not necessarily people who want your product. Now, I'll confess to you that, and if you watch some of my stuff, I used to talk about, we need to get to the people who want it. Forget all those people who need it. They're never going to buy. And you can see a lot of stuff out there. It talks about people who need, don't buy, they buy what they want. But this 67% doesn't necessarily want, but they need. So if you're limiting yourself, this is point 1. And a lot of this comes from, again, remember, I don't create this stuff. I just find it and try to share it with you, right? Once in a while, I come up with some ingenious idea, but I don't remember the last time that was. This stuff actually comes from a fellow by the name of Albert Ian Gray, Gray, who came up with this, gosh, I don't know, beginning of last century, I think. It's pretty old. And he said very simply, and he said it very effectively, if you're limiting yourself to people who want the product, then you're limiting yourself to that 3% out there who might, who you're fighting with everybody else to sell. I want to go after the 67%. Guess what? 67%, 3%, that's a 20 times increase in the number of potential people I could go after. And if I'm half a salesperson, I think I can sell them. So put in your mind that I'm not going after just people who want my product. I'm going after the 60, this right here. That's one of the reasons I wrote that. The 67% of people who need my product, and I'm going to try to bring them in. Now, next question that you always have to ask, and the 67 you're working now, is are you selling to people who are able to buy? Now, sometimes you don't know that because they don't want to listen, right? I mean, you're selling to people now. When you were selling that 3%, and let's just make sure, I don't want to confuse you, and I don't want to create too much I don't want to make it too complicated. But when you're selling to the 3%, it's easy, right? Because they'll listen. But if you only sell them to people who listen, again, Mr. Gray says, you're missing the biggest part of the market. Now, what you got to make sure is that the person that you're going after can buy. Can they buy what you sell? Because if they cannot buy it, then you're wasting your time, effort, and energy on people and you're not going after the right people. And here is something that you need to be aware of. There's there's always people who will listen. And people who will listen a lot of times are not the people who will buy. Now, please put this in your notes. Make sure you grab a hold of this. Just because someone listens doesn't mean they're going to buy. In fact, a lot of times the people that need to listen won't listen, and you, as a salesperson, are going to have to get them to listen. That's part of selling. That's why marketing doesn't touch the 67%, because they're not interested in listening. They need a salesperson to come out there and talk to them. So, first of all, don't just deal with people who want. You got to deal with people who need. Second of all, you got to get to the person who's able to buy. And more than that, you have to get them to listen. Now, one more point that Mr. Gray makes that I wanted to share. Now, this is the same thing that I was trying to tell you in the newsletter, and kind of we're going to put the two together. Remember, I said the newsletter gets their interest. Now I got to walk them into the sale. Same thing on selling. What you have to do is you have to get people to see why they should buy what you have. And real salespeople, and you know they're the only kind we have on this, right? Real salespeople can get prospects to the point where they see why they need to buy. This is all in that 67%. And I know a lot of you are probably spending your life in the 3%. But when you expand into that 67, you're going to do so much more business. But again, you have to do selling. This is selling now. I have to say, the reason you need to buy from my coaching is, bam, how am I going to show you why you need to buy this? How am I going to convince you? How am I going to convince you that you need to say, you need to buy this printing? How am I going to convince you that I'm the person you need to buy this technology from? That's where salesmanship comes in. And that's where persuasion, and that's where you need to know your product inside, outside, backwards, forward, but you need to know the competition's product. Just like, again, you've heard me talk time and time again about guerrilla selling. What is one of the big things in guerrilla selling? They know how to do that. So that is the essence of what we were trying to teach today. I know I probably gave you a lot to think about, and I hope I didn't confuse you. I was trying to chunk this down as small as possible so you could understand, and so you could really, as you know, some of you are going to go out this weekend and start working on your marketing process for the next quarter or for the next year, and I want you to start looking at a bigger window. I want you to say, my marketing touches these people, but I need to get at all these other people. If you have to sell this to investors, you have to sell this to senior management, you have to sell this to other people, what do you have to do? You have to show them, A, there's a lot of people out there that need what we sell. And they're in the 67% that most people ignore. I have to identify who the buyers are. That's the hardest piece. And then I have to persuade them that the product I have is the best. And I can do that. And how do you do that? Well, I want to tell you, first of all, you got to sell your boss. You got to sell the investors on that. Then you can sell anybody, right? But you have to move them. So look at your prospects. Take a look at the prospect base you have out there and ask yourself, is this a person that really fits in the 67%, or is it a person that fits in the 3%? It's okay. If it's a person that fits in the 3%, then what you're going to do is you're going to go and you're just going to go try to close the deal. You're going to try to meet whatever they need because you don't have to persuade them. If they fall in the 67%, All right. Now, what you have to do is you have to say, okay, these are people that I have to persuade. How am I going to move them from where they're at to buying? But even before I do that, look at that person and say, do I have the right person? I was working with a client this morning. We're working on that whole qualification because so many times people are selling to the wrong person. I don't sell to the wrong person. This is another tip for you. This is one of the reasons I know some of you who sell to Fortune 1000 companies, this isn't possible, but I'd still go as high as possible. I like to sell at the top. I always like to sell at the CEO, the president. Even if you're selling to a Fortune 1000, the local company, who's the president? Who's the CEO? Does he make the decision? Is that the one I want to sell to? Yes. If you want somebody below him or her to buy, they will connect you, and that's okay. Let them connect you. Wow. So that's it. Are you ready to go after that 67%? Are you ready to really put your process together and make this happen? Are you going to make this happen this week, or aren't you? Yeah, that's the question. Let's go back. 67%. This is your you know how we have talked about time and time again. How do I dominate my market? How do I really dominate? I dominate it because I'm gonna pull in that 3%, but I got 20 times as many prospects as anybody else out there because they're not working it, or they're not working it long enough. Remember, 1 call, 2 calls, 3 calls, 4 calls, 10 calls, 20. I don't care. These are potential buyers. What does it take? You've got to become an attitude and have an attitude of, I'm going to sell. These people need what I have. They can buy what I have. Now it's up to me. The only reason they're not buying, now put this down in your book. The only reason they're not buying is because I have not yet convinced them to buy. So when it's on me, I'm the one that can do something about it. Remember how we talk about you can only change you. And remember how we talk about it's all about what you do. So start figuring out how you can move them from where they're at through some education, and then through persuasion, and through a logical path. Think about the logical path of how to move them. I'm just about out of time. I got to wrap up, do a couple of housekeeping, and say we'll see you next week, as we see you every week. We love being here. If you've got subjects that you would like us to talk about, if you've got people you would like to see on the show, I know a lot of people, but not as many as all you out there know. So if you know people that you would like to bring in the show, let's bring them in. Let's talk to them. Let's put them on the show. We're here. We're trying to help you sell. You know how to find us. I hope many of you have got our new product out there, which will help you. I think I'll put it up here. I usually try to put it up in the chat box. I think I still have it. Let's see. If you're still looking for that time management process that we have, I just put it up in the chat box for you. I'm hoping you can see it. Just copy it out of there. That's the new time management tool that we're continuing to sell out there. Got good response from it so far. People love the little stuff. It's not a big brain thing. It's like a few little videos and a few little tips. And I'm telling you, if you take one of those tips and you use it, then you can learn a lot of, stuff you need to go after that 67% in the little bit of time frame. So please take a look at that product. If you missed part of this, it's always on the YouTube channel, MannyNowak.com. It's been my pleasure. I'm excited to be here with you today. I'm happy about the fact that you're moving forward. And if you need some tools, we got the website. You need some help, we're here. That's what we do. And as I always tell you, as my great friend who passed, I think it was close to 2 years ago now, Burl Walk always said, let's go out and create a better world. Thank you.